Hi, welcome to the Utu Na Uzalendo podcasts. My name is Mwalimu Mutemu Akiama, the founder of Mzalendo Halisi Foundation. At Mzalendo Halisi Foundation, we amplify ordinary Kenyans doing extraordinary things. In today's episode, we feature Karo Ng'ang'a, the founder of Msingi Trusts. Tune in. Hi, Karo.
Hi, Mutemi. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Welcome to the Utu Na Uzalendo podcast.
Asante.
I'm still finding it a mouthful to say podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. Karibu sana.
Asante.
The podcast is about telling stories of alternative leadership in Kenya.
Yeah.
Especially at this time when Kenyans are worried that our political leadership does not reflect our aspirations, our values, and we hope to be able to amplify and highlight alternative leaders, people who are doing their thing. They're not looking for glory or headlines, but they are working with communities across this country. And we are honored by your accepting our invitation.
Asante. It's an honor. It's a great honor to be here.
Asante. Karibu.
Asante.
So tell us about Karo Ng'ang'a. Who's Karo?
Those are normally mimi nimetoka Mukireti, Gashui, Dagoretti South. Born and bred within Dagoretti South. My ushago is in Nairobi.
Okay.
So
you're one of those.
Yes, I am one of those who never has a plan in December. So I'm from the outskirts of Nairobi. Yeah, I remember my great grandparents from both sides of my family. I remember them within Dagoretti. So I am a Dagoretti child. I'm Mukireti to be specific. Yes.
What does Mukireti mean?
I don't even know. Kireti, maybe the plains. I think it used to be like a huge plains or something.
Must be some English word that was Kikuyunized or something.
We are very good at doing that. We are. Ama it's lack of originality. It's like you just like it works, it's there.
Yeah, it works, it's there. You mispronounce it and then you adopt it and own it.
It becomes yours. Yeah.
So where did you go to primary school?
I went to Ruthemeto Primary School, a place that I really, really loved and enjoyed. And a primary school, a public primary school that has really formed me in terms of, I think the teachers in that space are the ones who first acknowledged or brought out leadership within me. And so Ruthemeto is a special school in my heart, and it's one of those places where it's on my to-do list in terms of being back in that spaces and trying to influence for good, because the state of primary schools is not what it used to be when we were studying. So I went to Ruthemeto, and then I actually after then went into high school. I did very well in primary school, and then I was called and these are some of now the conversations that I would love to enmesh in terms of leadership, because I was the best performing girl within the Dagoretti division during the time for KCPE. But
which year was this?
Mingi sana. Censored because it's so many. But when I performed, one of the things that time was very pivotal for me in understanding poverty. Because when I went to high school, that's the very first time I knew we were poor. Because I was called to go to St. George's Primary School. No, St. George's Secondary School.
This is on Dennis Bridge?
Yes, on Dennis Bridge. Yeah. So nimetoka huku kwetu Ushago, Gashui, Mukireti. I am very fine. You know how you
because everybody around you is the same.
Everybody around me is the same. And then you come and have to deal with your lack. A lack that you did not know you did not have. And so that was very, very hard, and it affected how I loved that place. I have never, ever, ever, ever gone back to that school.
Wow.
And then
You
also,
did the entire
4
were
years.
you in
Oh, did
4
I
years?
have a choice?
Yeah.
And
No,
I,
you know, yesterday we were with Wangu Kanje here, and she was like, she went to a Catholic school,
Yeah.
and it was torture, so she had to leave and go
oh
to another
yes.
school. Yeah.
For me, actually, one of the things I say is that of the 4 years, I studied for 3 because I was sent home for school fees so much. And see this, best girl in the division goes to a school within, because I realized it's in Dagoretti North. So at that time, before the subdivision, it was in our division, but didn't get any form of support. And that is why no bursary. And my mom went to find bursaries. It's not like she didn't go. She went, and that's why I hate bursaries up to now. I think they should be abolished because they do not help the poor children. And also I find that they make us parade our poverty. Yeah. Like, I remember my mom being told, go and don't shower, look haggard, all of those, so that you at least get a chance and make up a sob story that puts you at least in the front line to be able to. So you have to perform poverty, and so
it's a kind of poverty porn again.
It
around
is,
that, yeah?
and it's also, it's a poverty porn that's masterminded by people who should know better, people who should care about the welfare of the future of your division. Because if this is the girl who did the best in this, why are we not supporting her so that we allow her to thrive? And so I did not thrive in high school at all. I was happy, I'm always smiling, but deep inside I was broken completely. And then finding very different teachers who don't give you because you're not doing anything, so they don't give you the time of day, apart from one teacher, and who in Form 4 only, I remember, she saw me and she called me and she said, Carol, you are very, very bright. And now, from now on, I want you to be coming for me in the high school, in the staff room, and then sit in front and listen. Do you know I scored an A for her subject?
Wow.
I scored an A.
Because she affirmed you.
She affirmed me. She saw me. And she called out a thing that I had that had been killed, really killed in that school. Yeah. So that was high school.
There's a similar story I have, like in Form 2, when I was in Form 2 in high school.
Yeah.
We had two mathematics teachers.
Yeah.
So one of those guys was, he had come from doing his master's abroad, I think in Canada. So he had come to the village near where I was in Jira High School in Muranga. And then he got a gig to do, I don't know, there was a volunteer teacher.
Yeah.
And I think he had a master's in mathematics, but he was not a trained teacher. So he taught our class, but then we had the regular teacher, who was a trained teacher. He was from Scotland, called Humphreys. I think now he teaches at Jomo Kenyatta University. And the funny thing is that I passed the topics that were taught by the regular teacher. And this other guy, I failed in his topics all the way to Form 4 because he used to come and go to the blackboard. And because he was a lover of mathematics, just do his own things. Yeah. He would not carry.
He's teaching himself.
Yeah, he's teaching himself, and and he would not be able to carry. Of course, there were some kids who are mathematically wired, who were able to follow that. But personally, I could not. I could not follow it, and so I had. I think mathematics was my worst subject.
Yeah.
I got a D+ in maths.
I can't remember what I got in my math, but I remember looking at my report form. I think it was a C or a C minus. I was like, I did not expect this at the end of high school. But also I remember the mathematics teacher in Form 4 used to be my class teacher as well. And I vividly remember, like, one time I ran after her to ask her a question, and the person, the index 1, was like, she shooed me away. It's like, really, why am I wasting time with you as a kid? And and looked after this one child. Let me tell you, I was index 1 in my primary school. In high school, I was 121. Uko mwisho.
And you were leading in your division.
I was a bright child. I knew what I had. But you see, also now, this is the thing about poverty and being indignified, is that it robs you of who you are. Yeah. And this is why now, as we are talking about leadership, what bad leadership leads us into is in poverty. And then what poverty does, it robs us of our dignity. And so we cannot be fully human.
And that's the thing about teachers.
Yes.
They don't realize the power they have because they are part of, I think the first encounter of leadership is at the family level.
Yes.
Our parents.
Yes.
Then the next is either church or mosque or school.
Yeah.
The head teacher, the teachers, because then they model the world for us. And
Yes.
I think what you're saying is that you had a very nurturing childhood in primary school.
Yes.
And then the complete opposite when you went to high
It
school.
was a stark difference.
Yeah.
Because actually, if you didn't come from Buruburu, let me tell you, I used to think Buruburu was heaven. So the first time I went, sorry guys from Buru, the first time I went, like for real, I used to think there will be picket fences, there will be green grass and all of that, because how guys were behaving. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go to Buruburu. Because all the people who were seen were the ones from Buruburu and from Feather and all the Donholm and
they
all
could
of
speak
those.
English with a wang.
Where? And me there with my Kikuyu Rodhemeto accent. I'm sure my R's and L's were still very confused at that time. It was very difficult. It was a very difficult transition.
In high school, every time you saw a guy from Nairobi, or even not from Nairobi, and then everybody would say they come from Buruburu, even those who did not
Yes.
come from Buruburu. At that time, I had come from Kirinyaga, so I did
Yes.
not know what Buruburu was.
Yeah.
I think it's an aspect of colonial legacy in
Yeah.
terms of classism,
Yes.
which school you went to, which neighborhood you belong. And
Yeah.
then I think our education system, because you expect teachers' colleges to then factor that in, or they are training teachers.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we wear uniform so that
There's
you can all look
a
alike.
sense of uniformity.
Yeah, but when if teachers are then victimizing you based on where you come from and your neighbor,
And then also it's also those microaggressions. Sometimes you don't understand. Like there's kids who never used to go to the dining school, to the dining hall, because they have snacks and food that will carry them throughout the term.
in their lockers.
Mine used to be a storage for other kids. So for real, I remember there's a decamate of mine who used to have like those boxes of biscuits, like 3 of them, 5 liters, like milk powder, some of those things you saw for the first time in high school. And so it also teaches me about inequality. And Chick would not share ever. I will store her things, but she will never share.
She'll never share.
Never share.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that then reminds me of there's a lady called Dr. Priscilla Were, Professor Priscilla Were, who used to be she was a teacher in high school. Then she went on to become a commissioner with the TSC.
Yeah.
Tried to implement a program around basically Utu, dignity and dignifying the individual, and her schools, when she was a headmistress in Western Kenya, topped the country.
Yeah.
Butere girls, and I think some serious schools in Western Kenya.
Yeah.
And then she tried to mainstream the issue of values when she was a commissioner of TSC, didn't succeed. When she left school, when she retired, she actually went and bought a school, a private school in Butere town.
Yeah.
And started what is called the Kenya the Kenya Value School. Kenya, and
nice.
so the thing about the school, based on what you've said, is that there are no rules.
Yeah.
There are values. They use values.
And you know, one thing that I have realized is that schools like ours, and I keep seeing like the leavers of the school trying so hard to create an alumni network. I'm like, it does not work because we never felt one.
You never belonged.
I never belonged there. So why do you want me now? However many years later, because when I was there, I was not part of you. There's nothing for real. There's nothing about me other than the KCSE certificate that says I belonged here. Like, I can't tell you about a friend I made there. I can't tell you about a relation that I will carry to the grave. And so if you cannot build community, then why are you forcing it? And those values of community building are also very important because I think it taught kids to class themselves anyway. And so you find that there were kids, like there's someone I listened to telling about their story of their experience of the school, and I was like, guy, that's not how we remember it. Your experience of that school is based on your class. And that's like your social class and how you did it. And so if we cannot teach children by modeling and even forcing sometimes, like Utu, we cannot now force people 20 years later.
So this is how Mrs. Wara did it.
Yes.
She took a private school, and it was owned by a nation. So it's those schools where if you can't get any school and you're a parent, you take your kids because you can afford to pay for. It's just a village private school whereby those kids who cannot even be admitted in the local. So usually it's the kids who are not performed very well in the exam. And when she went, she found, I think, a class. It was at Form 2. So she took those kids at Form 2, the ones she found there. And she introduced values. So the values that she had, like caring, service, love, timeliness, that kind of thing, and allocated each class those values. And then the class would enforce the value within the school. So that instead of bells, to ringing bells, so that you are moving on to the next subject. You are all conscious of time. Even the teachers are conscious of time. The students are conscious of time. So you just move. Once the 40 minutes are over for the lesson, you move to the next lesson. The teacher moves, or you need to go for lunch or for break or whatever. You're all conscious of time, and there are those who are alerting you that it's time for the next lesson. So out of that, something interesting, which you've reminded me with your story, came. There's this girl who went and approached her now, and the teachers were approachable. You can imagine she approached the owner of the school, actually. Yeah. Just because she was that approachable. And I'm like, she's like, Mrs. Were, there are kids who, some of us have, they call it, those cocos and the milks and the whatever, and pads and sugar and that kind of thing. And there are some who don't have, and they're suffering. She was like, how about we create what she called a Samaritan bank, a space where you can put extra sugar, or those parents who are able to put extra pads, put extra cocoa, whatever. That was a Form 2 kid, and that's what they did. And they created a space where they put. So the girls went and told their parents. And then parents would come, and if you're able to, you buy your child an extra kg of sugar, and from there, that school never experienced any theft, any breakages, any kind of thing, because now all of them went and put their stuff there. So you just go and get the sugar if you want. You go and get tissue paper, and get whatever you need there. And the funny thing is, these kids who had come to that school, having performed very poorly in primary school, by the time they were doing Form 4, they were among the top in Butere.
Wow.
That dignifying
I think
had changed them.
I think when you say that, like, I've started shedding a tear because I think and I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but my lowest moment in that school was when I was on my period and I did not have a pad. And so what I did, like, the toilet I was in, there was like a semi-unused pad in that toilet. And so I just I have absolutely no idea whose this was, and I used it. And so, and remember, my decamate is overflowing and I can't use. And so imagine, how will I study at the same rate with someone there? I'm sure there's other guys who are like this, I will use this to fuel myself. But for me, it wasn't my fuel. It was the water that just stopped me in my tracks. And so access to the basic things that allow kids to thrive, but also being cognizant that in an institution like this, we come different, but we can support one another. You know, dignity is so important, and dignity should not, like, I think dignity is a human right. It shouldn't be based on where you come from, all of that. That when we are born, dignity is inherent. Like, there's absolutely no discussion about that. And so it's like allows you to step into who you need to be fully. Yeah.
Because and so sorry for that experience. And unfortunately, a lot of people have been traumatized, especially by high school.
Yes.
And especially people who come from, you know, I don't want to call it poverty, because when you're in that space, you don't realize you're poor until you go and meet.
We are good. We are. And then also remember that where I come from, like, if you ask my cousins and all of that, we were the ones who were, you know, like, you were just better off. Because we used to always have Christmas clothes, you know, all those things, all those measurements of it's relative poverty. When you're studying development, there's absolute poverty, and then there's relative, and as you go up. But yeah, so I didn't know I was poor until it's pointed out.
And the just last bit about Mrs. Were. So what happened is that now that school, by the time I remember working with her around, she did TED Talks around she established a trust, Kenya Values Trust, and the idea was to try and fundraise to get some money so that she can mainstream her dream. And I know we haven't spoken for a while, but I know she got to a point where now she was the story about the school spread within Western Kenya, and how she was being invited to different schools to help them develop a similar thing. So she was now spreading the gospel of values within Western Kenya. And the other funny thing is that as opposed to your experience where you don't want to be associated with St. George's, when she was there, kids will refuse to go home.
Oh, wow.
Because they know they not get the kind of care and love at home that they were getting in school. So kids would actually tell her, no, we don't want to go home. We want to. So you can imagine a high school where closing day, people want to stay in school.
Yes.
You know, and it's like I'll share with you the link to.
Yeah, I'd love to listen to that, because I'd like, must be nice.
I actually cried when she did, and I knew the story.
Yeah.
But when she did her TED Talk, I actually cried. I in the audience, I shed tears.
You were shedding tears.
Because the story is so powerful. Yeah. And I think, you know, that's one of the things when we talk about the fact that we are still a colonial country, is that we've not been able to deal with these divisions, this classism that comes from our British colonial legacy. And the fact that as Africans, that's not how we treat each other.
No.
We used to treat each other. And part of, I hope these podcasts will inspire people to start thinking in terms of how can we restore our dignity? How can we drop some of these things and take care of each other? Even something as people parents don't know. They want to dump you in school.
Yeah.
And go on with their work. Go make money or something.
Yeah.
The child has been taken away for whatever number of weeks. Hiyo shida nimeondolewa.
Umeendelea.
And then you're being traumatized for life.
And one thing that I want to point out is that my parents always came, even with the little that, like I remember my mom walking all the way, like, you know where Dennis Prit is, and there's no stage. So she was coming all the way from Quality or Dennis Prit, and then walking, and like there's a time, one core memory in my being is her walking, her shoe imetokana, it's torn, there's dust from here to here, but she has just one hot pot, but she came. All visit, and I used to cry. So now they tell me, you think we would not come, and the way you will cry the whole time. So they always came. And I remember that there were some of my classmates who, my parents just at 5 o'clock, 5:30, the driver just drops shopping and doesn't show up. No visiting from anybody. They just drop off shopping. And so for me, I am grateful that for all the times that my parents needed to come, my dad, my sister, my family, they always came. Even if it's to come with boiled rice na dengu, they came.
I think that's a very powerful thing.
Yes.
I've seen today there are things that are happening in schools that I really don't. I mean, now visiting has become like a show off. People go with chefs, tents, I don't know
if
what.
Now that's what it is. Can I tell you what it was? How many years ago? This is the first time, they came with the full catering. They have these convertible cars. They have it was a show. It was such a huge show.
Imagine how traumatizing that can be.
And then you're there walking. I'm like, you're walking with your mom with your one car hotpot. And then just next to you, there are people who are having a full-on barbecue with sijui how many types of what.
Why do we do this?
Yeah.
Why do we like showing off?
I don't know. I'm trying to struggle with that concept because maybe for them, this is normal. They always do this on a Saturday or on a Sunday. They barbecue, they come with food. Maybe their economic class allows them to do that. While on the other hand, if they're going if they're going on debt to do this, then it's a show off that does not.
But I don't see in our neighborhoods people doing barbecues every weekend. So who are these people?
Maybe it's
because and sorry to put on you answer because I'm like we like doing certain things when we think other people are seeing us, so that we show how it's a show.
It's a show. Maybe it's to show how clued in, like we know how to play this game. We've learned the masters rules, and so we are playing according to the rules. Yeah.
And I kind of find it my thinking actually it's first of all lack of self-esteem. You need validation.
Yeah.
And the validation is by traumatizing others or by invalidating others. So you want to show how you have because others don't have. And it's a British thing. Yeah, and I kind of we are still exploring this theory. Because of the white people who came to Kenya, most of them were misfits in the UK, and they came to settle here because they tried to create a society in their image. So that society of we go to clubs, we live in certain neighborhoods, our kids go to certain schools. And then now that becomes aspirational, that if you cannot afford to take your kid to St. George's or to whatever. I was reading something today about, someone shared about St. George's Primary School.
Okay.
Like school fees is 120.
Really?
And it's a public school.
It's a public school.
Yeah. So you can't afford to take your kid to St. George's. Yeah.
There's really something wrong.
We were discussing about taxing swimming,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
because swimming is a dynastic thing.
Yes, it's something that yet Dufumpara row in the river. Will
Yeah.
they now come and in this our kavode here that is coming from Kichinjio, you know, will they come and tax kids doing
The
that?
government has never built a single swimming pool apart from Nyao Stadium, maybe, and Kasarani.
And they want to tax.
They want to tax
things
those
that
who
they've
have
not
swimming
worked
pools,
on.
things that they've not developed. So, I mean, that's what you talk about leadership. Like,
Yeah.
how do we move away from here? Now you're coming to tell us about the organization you founded, Msingi Trust, and why.
Well, I think one of the, and maybe let me take you back a bit, because after I finished high school, I didn't perform well. I didn't, because of all these circumstances and feeling like, I remember when they announced the KCSE results of that year, I remember just like laying prostrate on the table because I knew I had messed up. I was the hope of this community. I had messed up. And so I got my results. I had scored a B-, which is a mark that I had never ever gotten in that
I thought
school.
B- was a pass.
No, not for me.
Yeah, well, you only done A.
Yes,
Yeah.
and not based on the expectations of what the community had. Because remember, and this is what you will see, that I'm a child of the community. I've been educated by the community, by the Dagoretti community. And so with a B-, I couldn't join university because of course, my parents can't afford to take me to a private university. So it was either that or nothing. And so for 2.5 years, I was perambulating within, but then I started community service at the Karen Langata Red Cross, which is not in Karen, it's not in Langata, it's in Dagoretti. So I have, but it's the Red Cross branch that used to be for the rich Karen people. And so that's why it's still called Karen Langata, I think. So, and it's at the very top, on the top of this road, or at the Shell, the Red Cross. And so that
which Shell?
Shell,
where you have there's another
Feed the Children.
Feed the Children.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
There's a
Kikuyu Road. Yeah.
Yes, there's a Karen Langata. So that, imagine that Red Cross is called Karen Langata.
Wow.
Yeah. So I volunteered for 2.5 years there, and that, I think that's where the community development, community transformation bug beat me. And so then after 2.5 years, one of my aunties saw an opportunity for me to study in South Africa. So I was given a fully paid for scholarship. Again, I tell you, up to now, I still have those cards for fundraising, where I support Caro to travel to South Africa to study for further studies.
Because you had to raise your own transport.
I had to raise everything. I had to raise everything. And I can't. So the community does it. And so there's those 20 shillings. So I am carried by 20 shillings and 10 shillings and 100 shillings of the people of Dagoretti. And so they took me. I studied. That was just a way out. You know how you are told, go, there is something. I didn't even know what I was going to study. So I went. And then it was a Bachelor's of Arts in Eurythmy.
What is that?
Eurythmy is an art of dance. And if you know me, you know that I am absolutely the wrongest person to be. So I was going to be a teacher.
You have two left legs.
They're okay, but that would not be me. I can move, but not that much. And also, I was going to be a teacher. And so for that, but after
teacher of dance.
Yes, a teacher of dance in Waldorf education. But after 2.5 years, I can tell you for sure, I had God vividly telling me, Carol, you're not meant to be in this school. And so remember, these guys are paying for everything for you. every single thing, your accommodation, your education, your everything. And then you're like, so now what do I do?
Where in South Africa was that?
In Cape Town.
In Cape Town.
Yes. So free accommodation in Cape Town, free food, free.
It's
They
very,
even
one
did,
of the most expensive cities
yes,
in Africa.
and they were even
in the world, actually.
yeah, they were doing cereal shopping for me and all of that. And so I went and told them, guys, I can't go on, because I knew in my soul that this is not where I belonged. And I think that's one of the most difficult choices and things I've had to do. And I changed schools even without telling my parents, because what can they do? They don't have money. They can't anything. So a church that I was attending to, was part of the running of an institution called Cornerstone Institute. Then now I went and did my bachelor's of theology.
You got another scholarship, or how did you afford?
Kind of. I like, if I tell you I don't know how I paid for college, I do not know how I paid for college. And let me tell you, in those 6 years I was in South Africa, I came home every 2 years. Somehow.
Wow.
Somehow I came home every 2 years. The church and the school were able to front me just a scholarship that ended just after I went in. That scholarship ended. And this for me is why I really believe in providence of God, because then just after I engaged, that story died. And so it was consistently working.
It's like it was waiting for you.
It was waiting for me, for sure. You can't tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
And so I could get my feet in. And then I had community around that place. And I can tell you those are the best 3 years of my life so far. Because then that's where I studied. I was allowed to question. The motto of the year that I was going was to leave the question, that to explore the things that are not the things that are givens. You ask any question, but also love your community. So I was doing community development, but also really we were really wrestling with the things of life, the things of spirituality, the things of poverty, inequality. We were having really, really difficult questions and conversations around what it is to be human. And so those 3 years prepared me for work, prepared me to never be afraid of being in a space where the answers are not clear, and to never be afraid of having no answers. Because I think colonial education and even Christianity as it is right now, it makes you want to always have answers. Yet I do not think that life is about answers. And so serving people was sort of the thing I was meant to do, because I was prepared for it. I was nurtured very well by my teachers to serve, and they really also saw something in me. And also the words that teachers say. Again, I remember one of my lecturers told me, Carol, you will be one of those people we hear and read about in years to come. And so leadership as well, and Utu, you have to call it out sometimes out of people. And so
speaking destiny.
Yes, you speak, because sometimes we are just waiting for someone to say something that you know, but you're like, am I sure? Am you just perambulating in the halls of school?
But the self-doubt is one of the biggest. It should be declared like a national disaster or something.
Yes.
Or an international disaster.
Yes.
Because people have potential, but
Yes.
they lack affirmation. And I
Yes.
think that's what you're talking about, our education system.
Yes.
Yeah.
And our education system, because of competition, is always like the kid who's at the last of the classroom. No one will ever affirm that child. You are only affirming the best. Yeah? And maybe that was what happened to me in primary school. I was consistently affirmed, but at the expense of maybe like some of my desk mates and all of those. But I think we need to learn how, and this is why Pedagogy of the Oppressed is such an important book for us to read and explore, is how do you read and teach communities that are in economic strife, and how do you make a classroom that is not a banking situation, the teacher with wisdom, but one that's in circles.
It's co-learning.
Yeah.
So the teacher is also learning.
Yes,
and the students are also learning.
Yeah. So, and I think that's what happened.
It's actually that.
Cornerstone.
How do you remove the teacher from that position
Yes.
of that hierarchy?
Yeah.
To being part of this community that they are learning and they are exploring concepts and ideas together. Because in that case, then your situation would become part of the learning.
Yes.
And in terms of how do these teachers then handle you based on the fact that you come from a different background from some of these kids, and how do you cross-pollinate? How do you gain from the cultural experience of these kids who have come from different backgrounds? How do they gain from you? And I think that's a very powerful. It's a difficult book to read. A very powerful book.
Yeah, we did that as part of the Msingi studies. That we'll come back to Msingi, but we did that with as part of our Msingi studies, which is very important. But also now you saying that reminds me that that's what my teachers at Cornerstone did. They removed the distance between the teacher and the student. And so we were all learning together in a circle. Not really like circle round, but there are times we even sat around in a circle so that there's no hierarchy. And I long for those situations of learning again. And so, and then I came back, worked at a church for about 7 years. Very interesting experience where...
What were you doing in the church?
I was working in the justice department. Okay. It was a social justice department. So when I was in Cape Town, I Googled and I knew for sure I wanted to come back to Kenya. But then I remember all my family asking, why the hell are you coming back to Kenya? What are you coming back for? We gave you a ticket out of poverty.
Umeenda majuu.
Umeenda majuu. Unarudi kufanya nini? But my soul knew this is where I needed to belong. And so I came back. It was very difficult. But I think at the very end, one of my lecturer's mother talked to someone and I got an internship here and then a 6 months internship.
Which church?
No, not that internship. So Auntie Esme allowed me to work with Reverend Judy for 6 months in her orphans program. And then I started now interning at Nairobi Chapel in the Justice Department. And I did that. That's also some places where I learned about leadership. There was intensive. I was in the leadership development program under the social justice department, and some of my greatest lessons and my greatest pains of life come from there as well, because I learned to manage myself, manage others, manage your leaders, and all of that. But also, I saw extreme wealth doing nothing. People who are capable of changing this country as congregation members, as leaders within the institution, not brave enough to count the cost.
This Nairobi Chapel next to University of Nairobi. I mean, next to Box at University of Nairobi.
Yes. No, not that one when it was here.
Karen.
Yes, it's now on Ngong Road.
Yeah. So that time it already moved to Ngong Road.
Yes, it had already moved. And then to see how men and women were prepared for leadership so differently. And so, like, people who were horrible in terms of themselves as leaders being given, because they were men, being given opportunities to lead better, or bigger spaces. And for me and my friend, we were consistently assisting.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's also the element of patriarchy in that
Yes,
space.
we
And
work
you're
on-
talking about one of the biggest leadership development programs in this country.
Yes.
Because Pastor Moreu has mentored many leaders. Nairobi Chapel gave birth to the Mavuno,
Yes.
where I went,
Yes.
where I also
Oh, really?
was mentored by, not directly, but Pastor Simon and
Yes.
Pastor Moreu, the
Yes.
Mavuno down over South Sea.
Yeah.
Did Man Enough, which is what led me to the path where now we are sitting across each other. So
really?
you also have almost similar
paths.
paths, yeah.
Yeah, and so like seeing, and sometimes you don't even need to be told because you see like the tasks. So in the cohort of leaders that we were in, we were just two chicks. And for real, I can tell you for sure, we are better leaders than some of those men in that space. But the kinds of responsibilities that they were, even the kinds of mistakes that they were allowed to make,
get away with, yeah.
we were never allowed to make those mistakes. Yani, let me tell you,
Wow.
it becomes very blatant after some time. You're like, apana. And so, but also at the same time.
But you still stayed there for 7 years.
I did because I was learning and they gave me an opportunity to grow into my gifting of being like, I remember in almost year, because there was a 3-year thing, then 1 year I was sent to go to crew. I think that was their way of firing me. I was not sure. And then I came back again because it was not working. And so when I was sent away to study, to sort of be an understudy at crew, I knew I liked what they were doing, but I knew this is not what I want to do. I don't want to be in mainstream NGO doing just this work. I want to connect my faith because I am a believer. I believe in God. I believe in what Jesus had to do for this, like the Jesus mission for me. I believe in that, but and justice for me is so core. And so if I can't bring those two worlds together, for me, I feel like I am not being a full individual. And so when it was time, I knew 2016, 2017, it was time for me to, now I had given myself a 10-year plan to now start something. And then Uko 2016 at the end, I start telling my mentor, and this is also now another thing about leadership, is that if you're my mentor and I trust you, if I come to you and tell you I feel like I need to leave here, then you go and tell my bosses, and then that now, let me tell you how I was told to resign. I was told to resign during a sports day in the field. It was like, write your resignation letter.
Wow. And this is a church.
Yes.
Because it's good to
it is.
Step back.
Yes.
It's
HR.
that lack of humanness and dignity.
And the person is telling you smiling. Yeah. And one of the things, and this is why for me, even in the call that I have to do justice, for me, it's justice within the faith systems first. Yeah. Because there's a lot of injustices that happen in that space where people take advantage of the goodwill of people. But also, if you're firing me, just tell me you're firing me.
Because people go into...
This is not my house.
People go into church and other faith spaces as a safe space, as a place where there's trust, ideally. Because kama hawa ni Wakristo, basi they cannot stab me in the back.
Yes.
But you find what you're saying
stabs.
is that the stabs are...
Kwanza it has kapilipili on the edge.
They stab
so
and then they add...
as it's being removed, it has like a sting.
And how do you maintain your faith in such circumstances? Because I can tell you personally, I lost my faith.
You lost it?
I lost it.
Yeah, for me, I maintain it because of the kind of relationship I had with God. It was a friend relationship. I've never seen God as a taskmaster for me. It was always, this is my friend. This is someone who, and for me, I've felt and heard God's voice in my life for so long. Like remember in high school, I can tell you for sure, supernaturally, I knew what to read for some of my exams. Supernaturally, I heard God's voice telling me, hold on, this is not the end. Yeah. I can vividly remember. And so for me, my relationship with God is never about what other people are doing with God. It's about what me and God are having. And also that I know for sure that this fire against injustice is not something I would pick. It's something that has been placed in my belly, and I always feel it here. I don't know where you feel it. For me, I feel it here, that this fire is sacred. Yeah, and for all of us, our sacred longings are different, and they come from different spaces. But I can tell you, for me, this fight is sacred. It's a call, and it's because this is not what God's vision for the world is. And so that is why, so I maintain it because, like, yeah, God is bigger than the dramas of
and when I say I lost my faith, it's not like I lost faith in God.
Yes.
It's I disconnected from Christianity.
Yes.
And I'm at a space where I normally explain it that we talk about the Abrahamic religions. We talk about Jesus and Muhammad.
Yes.
I believe they are not the last people to speak to God.
And
so can I have that conversation with God on my own? Where do I have to follow?
To follow that.
Or even Buddha, his exploration. So I say personally, I'm at a space where I'm seeking God just the way, and I'm not saying I'm a prophet like Jesus, but I think we can find God for ourselves at some point. I don't know what you think about that.
And I think that's okay, because I think God reveals God's self in so many ways. And I will be thrown away by Christians and tell you, I'm like, there's just,
we need to have this conversation.
God is so immense.
That's the thing.
Yes.
We put God in a glass and we start serving God to people.
Yes. I'm like, God is so immense that I'm sure God even laughs and is like, hey, today you're serving me in a short glass and saying, just drink this. No, the immensity of God is
and it's such a hard conversation to have. So I can what I've just told you, I usually don't have that conversation. I just avoid any conversation about faith.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you won't understand. So why would you even bother having that conversation? And the thing is,
we ask consistently as Christians and any other religion, we are consistently now, I would ideally tell you, no, believe in God. Why are you? But I'm like, if you look at the expressions of even faith and God and all of that is a conversation. It's not a conversation to convert, but it's a conversation into relationship. And so this putting God in a box does not do
it's
do
actually
me
how
anything.
I see it is it's we humanize God. And we put our own inadequacies as human beings, and our own incapacity to see the wonder of the universe. When you look at these flowers here, the water in the glass, the clothes you're wearing, the tapestry.
Yes.
When you break them down to the basic element, they are all the same.
Yeah.
But for me, it's God's the magnificence of God is being able to have this set we are sitting in, and you and me and the billions of people on this planet billions of creatures and the stars and everything, that it's so huge that some of us don't, when you're limiting God and putting him in a box, or him or her or whatever, in a box or whatever, we are like limiting ourselves.
And the audacity of that as well, of limitation of God who is bigger.
Like if I can see you have locks.
Yeah.
So some churches will tell you with locks you're not
First, I'm a woman. I have locks. I am the things that who's the guy who said sina nyota for real, Mimi, in terms of what's the guy, Ezekiel, yeah, sina nyota. I have tattoos, I have locks, I have I'm consistently in tights and trousers, so sina nyota. But I think for me, when you ask me about it, it's a lived experience, and it's a knowing within my soul that I can't explain. And I question everything. I have questioned everything. I am a questioner. I will, like my primary school teacher can tell you, my class 4 teacher can tell you, the first question I asked him is, when he entered into the class as a new child, is, I think, either how do snakes have sex or how did they give birth? So even at 10 years old, I had questions. And these questions for me have never been stopped by a faith.
My first question to, I think the one I can remember, it was to a Sunday school teacher who was just, I think it was unfair to her because she was just a girl, an older girl, but of course I was a child, so she was an adult. She looked like an adult. And I was like, are you guys saying that since my great grandfather was not preached to Christianity, they are going to hell?
Yeah.
And the billions of people who died before Christianity came to Kenya.
Yes.
I could not reconcile myself with that.
And that is a very good question to be asking as a young child. Very good question.
But of course, I was told, when kichwa ngumu, acha kuuliza maswali mingi, just have faith.
No. And for me, my favorite disciple is Thomas, the one who doubted. And touched. And there is room for doubters. There's room for those people who like give me evidence.